Hi, I'm Joe Gerdes, and this is Coffee in the Capitol. Our guest today is Senate Majority Leader Joe Pittman, representing the 41st Senatorial District, serving Armstrong, his home county of Indiana, part of Jefferson, and part of Westmoreland County. Senator, I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for taking some time to join us today.
Joe, it's my pleasure. Happy to be part of it.
Senator, as the majority leader, you not only represent your district's constituents' interests, but also that of your colleagues within the caucus. And you need to work with members across the aisle to move legislation forward, not to mention the other chamber across the building and the governor's office. Not an easy job by any means, with so many different varying points of view in a commonwealth as big and diverse as it is. But you've been around a while on the Hill, and you seem to navigate it very well. And I just wanted to see what what your leadership philosophy was, and how we keep moving Pennsylvania forward in a time where there's a lot of different opinions on how to do that.
I appreciate that, Joe, and I really am honored to serve as the majority leader of the state Senate. And I use the word serve very sincerely because I have been elected by the other 27 members of the Senate Republican majority to serve them as their majority leader. And it's a great honor, but the greatest honor I have is representing the people of the 41st District. And you described my territory and the 255,000 people in which I'm honored to represent. And that is always at the forefront of my mind, is that I have been elected by those constituents in my community where I grow up, where I live with my family, to represent them here in Harrisburg. And there are a lot of difficult balances because this is a very diverse state. It's very diverse politically, it's very diverse geographically. And even within the 28 members of our Senate Republican majority, we have a great amount of diversity. The points of view of Erie County are not always the same as that of Bucks County or Blair County. And so bringing that all together and then trying to reconcile those differences with the differences with our Democratic governor, who I very much respect, although we have several disagreements with on issues. We also find areas where we can agree. And then, of course, dealing with the Democratic House. And so there's a lot of balance there. It really is a demonstration of what it means to have some give and take in government. I hope that we can demonstrate that divided government isn't dysfunctional government. And frankly, over the last 10 months, that's been our objective.
Sure. And Senator, in the 41st Senatorial District, you have a lot of municipalities, including quite a few townships.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, the diversity of the state, and how do you meld the interest of all those communities, and how important is communicating with those townships and hearing from them on how you do your job in Harrisburg?
It is so critically important, Joe. I have a lot of very good relationships and frankly friendships with township supervisors throughout the district. Our district's townships, I think, are by and large pretty similar. We have some larger townships, but most of our townships have a more rural nature to them with similar issues, everything from turnback roads to the need for broadband infrastructure, and invariably the issues of being able to enforce ordinances and things of that nature are very much like-minded. But what I try to say to all my constituents, but also the local elected leaders, is that I'm not a minder. And so I can't know what the problems are if I'm not aware of them. I can't help address them if I'm not aware of them. And that's a critical piece of local elected officials, state elected officials, all communicating together. So we first and foremost understand what the problems actually are.
Senator, many of the priorities that we put forth here through that process at PSATS are currently being deliberated in both chambers, like radar and automated speed enforcement, right to know law improvements, legal advertising changes, and most importantly, supporting our volunteer fire and EMS services. What should township supervisors, in addition to what PSATS is doing, how should they work with their legislators and their senators to help kind of move forward some of these priorities? We think some of them are common sense, and then other people have varying opinions on how we get that done, and it's not an easy process sometimes.
Well, you're right, and there's always unintended consequences and points
Sure.
of view that are counter to what sometimes we think are obvious answers.
Right.
But you laid out a menu of issues there that are very much discussed and debated, and I think some can be achieved in the months ahead. You know, the issue of the right to know law. Obviously, we want transparency in government. We need
Of
transparency
course.
in government, but we have to be mindful that it costs money, time, and resources to comply with the right to know law, and it can't be used in a vexatious manner. And
Sure.
we do see examples where we have vexatious requesters, and we're trying to figure out a way to navigate that, but do it in a way where we don't limit transparency for the town.
Exactly.
Very, very, very critically important. Local radar is something that I personally support. I voted for in the past. I think it makes common sense. I think some of the limitations that have been in place are logical. Obviously, we're not looking for this to be some revenue generator and
Exactly.
gotcha mechanism, but I do think clearly with the burdens that the state police face in their own right, allowing local law enforcement to enforce speeding laws is something that I think the time has come to enhance. In the EMS front, you know, we have a real crisis across this Commonwealth, and ultimately, as your members know, the delivery of first response service is an obligation of the municipalities.
Yes, it is.
We're a partner in that process, but the obligation ultimately is on the municipalities. And we've just recently enacted legislation in a bipartisan way that will increase Medicaid reimbursements for EMS. It will be a $120 million infusion into the EMS network, and that will be a recurring infusion. But I just want to underscore with your members, that does not solve the problem.
Sure.
It makes the problem manageable. It takes the issue from a disaster to a crisis, but there is still a crisis, and a lot of that's going to require partnership at the local level to figure out how to solve. I do wish all of your members a very Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and a safe and prosperous New Year. I know that the winter months can be very unsettling for townships, depending on what the weather.
We got the plows ready, sir.
And they can certainly interrupt Christmas gatherings, New Year's gatherings, and all of those things. But we often take for granted the need to have townships being able to deliver those kinds of services at some of the most important times in our community. And the holiday season is a big part of that. Obviously, making sure the roads are safe for school buses and things of that nature. So I know there's a lot of work that goes into making a township operate and to keeping the public safe and secure. And the winter months are often the key challenge in making that happen. But I hope everybody has a great holiday season. And as far as 2024 goes, it will be a year of uncertainty. Obviously, there are significant elections to occur in 2024. You know, we're continuing to make sure that we're responsible with our own budgetary practices, recognizing that there is some slowdown in the economy, nothing that's of crisis yet, but we heavily depend on our revenues to come in to balance our budget. Unlike our friends at the federal government, we can't deficit spend, much
Right.
like members can't. And so that's going to be a big key to making sure we get through the 2024 year in a very sound financial manner.
Well, Senator, that's all the time we have for Coffee in the Capitol. Thank you again for taking some time to be with us, and Merry Christmas to you and to your family, and thank you for your leadership to the Commonwealth, and thank you for working with PSATS to help us move forward the priorities of our townships.
Thank you for joining us on Coffee in the Capitol this month. Remember, if you like what you're seeing, email tvn@psats.org. Also, be sure to subscribe to PSAT's YouTube channel. Hit the bell button for notifications, follow our social media pages, and head over to the TVN page at psats.org for more Township video news content. As always, thanks for watching.